appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody who has onboarded. I want to respect your time. I want to respect and honor your effort. I want to respect and honor the ability that you're going to deploy in terms of concentration. And I want to invite you to get yourself a piece of paper, and you're going to be scoring yourself on a rating scale as I talk. So the session is not one of those TED Talk sessions where you're going to hear 7 things that you honestly and truly won't know what to do about most times, and they get standing ovations for it. But this is a coaching session. Not only is it a coaching session, you will be feeling as if I'm coaching you alone today, as if it's just you and I in your office, in your context. And I'm going to be offering the first 15 people that respond a wonderful, wonderful, special opportunity to take the step a little bit further, and so that you could glean and gain maximum potential and maximum outcome from this coaching session. What makes me different is what makes me unique, and you'll see on the welcoming slide, and there are a few slides that I'm going to be sharing with you and talking you through. What makes me different is that I apply cognitive, social, leadership, and organizational neuroscience. Neuroscience is the science of the mind and the brain. And I'm just wondering how many of you really want to be ahead and far more aware when it comes to planning for the new year. And planning is something that is very, very important, but we fall into traps, and that's why coaching plays a significant role in helping people to think differently, because you now have a thinking partner and you have a growth partner in me. So up front in coaching, I want to tell you that you and your agenda is my agenda. And you're going to find your agenda in what I'm going to be sharing with you. Your success is my focus. I mean it with all of my being, that I would want you to be and desire you to be a success rather than just average or mediocre. The other thing that I want you to know is that I am very, very conscious and aware as a master executive neuro coach. I've got 36,678 one-on-one hours. So the hour that we're going to be spending together is another one that we're adding to that, where I've spent time looking into the eyes of managers, leaders, executives, board members, African royalty, here and there splattering of government leaders, and even lesser so a splattering of church leaders on purpose. But the first thing I want you to understand what I believe, and that is prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. And how many times do we fall into that trap? Many times we'll go to a doctor, he will sit on the other side, or she will sit on the other side of the desk. They'll begin asking questions like, tell me what's your problem? What are the symptoms they're feeling? And I've had occasion where the doctor hasn't even lifted his bum out of the chair and then already started writing on his prescription note going, oh, this is an easy one. You can quickly go and get these 4 tablets and let's hope for the best. It's a feeling that I walk out with, and I'm not very comfortable with it because he hasn't done a proper diagnosis. Stethoscope never came near me. thermometer never came near me, heart pressure instrument never came near me, but he already diagnosed me and he prescribed based on a conversation. In our session today, and I'd like you just to ponder with me, and I'd like you to prepare your mind and your consciousness for this session. So I invite you just to sit back in your chair, roll your shoulders back, and just do the exercise with me, because when we have our physiology and we give breathing or oxygen to the mind, it really, really does an amazing thing. It oxygenates the central nervous system. That in turn, that oxygen brings balance or homeostasis, as we know it in the neurology terminology. And I want you just to relax and breathe in and breathe out, and just be aware of the breath going into your nostrils and the breath coming out over your lips. So breathe in, feel the breath there, and breathe out. Feel the breath there. Do it again. Breathe in and breathe out, and breathe in and breathe out. Roll the shoulders back, and I'd like you to blink your eyes a few times and just relax with me for a moment. So I start our coaching session with a proverb, a Jewish proverb. And in this Jewish proverb, the prophet says, whenever a person wants to build a building, a tower, a house, whatever you want to build, a business, you are doing that in time and space. So in the now, moment of right now, which is on the timeline of the present, but we're now in the now moment of the present. He says, if you're going to build anything of worth, then you need to sit down. You need to put your bum in a chair in a certain time and in a certain space. So we can tick that off based on the proverb. Here we are on time, in time, 11 minutes past 10 on the 20th of November, 2023. We're sitting down in time and space. And then the proverb goes further and says, when you're seated, because you cannot strategize and you cannot think on the run, very difficult to do that, then you plan thoroughly. What do you plan on? You plan on something which is called your future reality. So let's just talk a moment about that. You had a past reality, which was a future reality in the beginning of 2023. You then planned it, and you are now on the 20th of November, you're coming to, you can already come around. It's like when I was running the 400 meters, which was my favorite race to run when I was at school. Archaeologists recently discovered the school that I attended a long, long time ago. And that last lap, just coming around that last lap, and somehow it would generate within me a sense of energy that I never had before. And it would, like, I'd be pumping at that moment, and I'd really go all out. And that was my winning sequence. It was the moment I came around the corner, I had paced myself, and the moment I see that line across the winning line, across all the lanes, I'm really going all out. Interestingly enough, I had the end, I went beyond the line in my thinking. So I always saw people running, and then even watching the Olympics, you'll see them run. And as they come to the tape, they, for a split nanosecond, they slow down, and then they lose almost a half a second in time by doing that. But if you set your sight on the other side of the tape, you'll be running through the tape at the speed at which you were running to be able to win the race. So he says, then you sit down and you thoroughly plan. What do you plan? You plan your dream. So somewhere you have a dream for 2024. As managers, we all know that. We're aware of that. And we're paying attention to that reality in a very, very real way. So we are already going, we know that the financial director, 9 out of 10, the financial director has already present him or herself in our meetings, has shared with us that we as a company are going to grow by, I don't know, 12, 17, 20. One always wonders and ponders where they get that information from. The good ones do market research, etc., and they look at the potential of the team, they look at the potential of the product and the value proposition of the product, and they want to create scalability, they want and sustainability. So they want the company to continue. Then he says you thoroughly plan. So you don't just sit down and plan scantily, here and there, hier en daar, vat hier, vat los daar. When you plan, the word thorough comes to mind. And thorough means I apply all my thinking capacity, all my hope, because you can't plan a future without hope, all my strength, my desire, and all my understanding. So I use cognitive in the front end of the mind, in the prefrontal cortex. I'm using the executive thinker of the mind. There's a part in my brain, in my consciousness, in my mind. The brain does nothing. The brain doesn't think. The brain doesn't feel. The brain is simply an organ. It's hardware, like a computer. It's hardware which allows the DOS program to magnificently display itself. So the brain is exactly the same. You are not your brain, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're not your actions, but you are your conscious mind. And the conscious mind is that alive part of our neuroplasticity or our neuroscience. Then when we thoroughly plan for the future or a new reality or a hoped for reality, we cannot but not pay attention to V.U.C.A, the reality in which we're living. That's not going to change. In fact, when you listen to, I listened to Davy Root and a few other economists who were telling us about the future of South Africa into the next 3 years, there's a few things that we can predictably, powerfully tell us that's not going to change. Number one, corruption is not going to change. It's still going to be there because the same leaders, the spots of a tiger, of a leopard cannot change. So we'll continue to have corruption. We'll continue to have a government that lies. We'll continue to have a government that's only concerned about their own pocket and not about the people, and definitely not about the poor. And so that's a living reality. We can take cognizance of that and go, we can tick that off. That's definitely going to happen. The international world is going to unfold. Israel will possibly still be at war, and it might escalate, it might not escalate, depending on who's going to blow each other's nose and come to the party. But in the proverb, it says we need to thoroughly sit down and thoroughly plan, and then we need to apply all of our resources resourcefully to finish. So there's an objective in planning. So you don't just plan so that you can go, okay, I've journaled. That's not what we're going to do today. So today we are going to pay attention, and I'm going to use neuroscience, and I'm going to use a neuroscience tool or a few tools of neuroscience. So allow me to just introduce you to neuroscience. So neuroscience is what happens inside the mind. 87 billion neurons and 78 trillion, so a neuron is like that part of my hand, and 78 trillion branches, which are called axons, which at the end of has a synapses. So you've got another neuron over here, and those branches are doing that. There's 7 kinds of energy that are flowing, from electrical to nuclear energy, to neuron energy, to magnetic, electromagnetic, to fuel energy, to mechanical energy, to muscular energy that's flowing through all of those. And these 87 billion neurons, as you are listening, are deciding who's coming to the party so that you can listen to me and that I'm connecting with you. So even although we're having a hybrid meeting, we are still connecting with each other through the airwaves. So that's the power of our neurology. Neuroscience has a few disciplines. So I've just written down a few. So you've got cellular neuroscience, you've got systems neuroscience, you've got clinical neuroscience, you've got chemical neuroscience. You've got cognitive behavior. That's where I'm standing today. There's the neuroscience of immunology and the neuroscience of biology. You've got the neuroscience psychology and the neuroscience of education. I'm very happy to be part of a neuroscience education. Part of my legacy is to take neuroscience education into Africa beginning next year, to teach over 2,000 principals and schools and teachers on how to teach the brain so that it can remember more, that it can be excited and joined into the subject in terms of interest. So the umbrella is neuroscience. The parts of neuroscience are those criteria, but the line that makes it work, this little band, is called neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity is how our neurology creates energy. So the first thing that happens in anything in our mind, you always have energy first. Then energy creates a thought. Then thought creates a feeling. And what's very interesting about that feeling is that our neurology at that point takes a guess. So our emotions are the guesswork of the neurology. I guess it's at that tense, that intensity, that could be the name of it. But neuroplasticity not only is the genesis of energies, thoughts, and feelings and emotion, it also helps and decides on what action to take. And that action is either to stand still, to run away from, to freeze, flight, faint, or have fellowship. And toward is where we are hoping to go in our coaching session, where I'm wanting to coach you in terms of that. But then reality happens. So this happens inside, then reality happens on the outside. And reality is called consequences. So the moment I have an action, I will have a consequence, and then I will have a reaction because I go back into there, the loop carries back into there, creates new energy, new thoughts, new feelings about the reaction to the consequences, and that has an impact on my emotions and on my thoughts, on my body. I'm either aware or I'm unaware, and most of us are unaware. So right now, that's why I'm coaching, and that's exactly what coaching does. It takes people from an unaware state. So that is a lioness that's looking at a herd of zebra running by. The lioness is looking at lunch, but it can't make up its mind as to which zebra it wants to eat. But coaching gets you to step back so that you can watch the zebra. And only when you go into a mode called reflection, that's where you learn, unlearn, and align. And then you create a new thought and you create a new feeling with your cognitive mind. Sometimes this happens, most of the times happens, about 90% happens automatic, but the other 10% only when we step back and reflect. And only in coaching do people step back and learn about their business. They do not learn about their business when they go on a bosberaad, because a bosberaad is this. We go and we learn and we're taking guesses and we writing on flip charts and we go on team events, and it's all, that's called unconsciousness. We're aware, but we are unaware of the exactness, and we miss the story. So here's a very busy slide, but please bear with me because I'm going to be sending you via email And because you've registered, you'll be getting this via email, and you are going to be able to listen to the recording again because you've registered. We'll send you the recording, and we'll send you an ebook version of our slides. So let's just breathe in. I want you to breathe in and just have a look at it. You can take a screenshot should you wish, but you're going to get the copy. So we start off in the bottom left-hand corner, and that's our past reality. So we had a past, and it's very real, and this is where we are now. We don't want to repeat the past. So you can, if you want to, you can go back and repeat the past. But you don't want to repeat the past because the past has taught us lessons, and the past is, in terms of which, it's like an opportunity that we must just go with a broad stroke. You go in gently into the past and wide angle lens into the past, and you go as a witness to observe the past so that the past doesn't become your critic that goes, I told you so, you didn't. We don't pay attention to the past to go and find out only what went wrong, because there was a lot that went right, and there was a lot that we didn't know would go right, which we later discovered did go right. But because we were unconscious, we didn't know. It just happened. But here we are at this place called X, called now. So this is my present reality. Every strategy has a now, and every strategy has a then. So then is the top right-hand corner, and that's where we want to set our new target for 2024, and that's called our new reality. We create the new reality through a cognitive way of thinking, and that's what you're going to be doing. But we're first going to be doing what we said, that we want to diagnose before we prescribe. So you're going to go through a process of diagnosis. So generally, strategy, and I've been coaching strategy now for 3.5 decades in companies of all sizes. De Beers turned their 17-year strategy into a one flip chart page. TSB Sugar, that are now called Solati, we worked on their strategy 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line. Mining companies, financial companies, working into the future. So every strategy has a now and then has a future, and we're all moving towards that future, systematically moving along a timeline that has a trajectory. So we're going, all things being equal, that's what we're going to achieve when we get there. So it's the shaft of an arrow. That's me, the leader, and my brand. Here's the team. Here's in the shaft is admin, HR, systems, products that meet the need and the pain of people, which helps us to create what is known a value proposition. We've got our present customers over here in the arrowhead, but when we go into the future, those are the new customers that we want to achieve, that we believe we can, and without customers, you don't have any of this. So if I don't have customers and I only have this, I'm making no income whatsoever. So customers are those that create my income. The two cutting edges of the arrowhead are sales and marketing, and I've written them both in red because sales and marketing have to orchestrate together. So that's my first question to you. When you look at the past, how well did sales and marketing work for you? Now, marketing, they love to tell us that their role is to create a need or to introduce the product, and that's their job. I'm going, no, no, no. Marketing is more than showing a motor car riding on a road and somebody climbing out the car and smiling and they're going, yes, this car is for you. That's stupid marketing, because all you're doing is, yes, you are introducing the brand, and marketing, the rules of the mind, says that you need to put your product out there 7 hours. They must get 7 hours of interaction, 420 minutes. The people have to read about your product before they will start going, okay, now I understand, now I engage. So just imagine that. Amazing stuff. So they have to put out 420 minutes of marketing, but the objective of marketing is to literally sell the sizzle of the sale. What do they sell? They sell the pain that is being solved, and they sell the need that is being solved. So they are co-partners together with your sales team. And we can help you in your marketing and in your sales to become neuro sales and neuro marketing orientated. In other words, to target your product into the minds of people rather than into personalities. Personalities is the fluff. So then we set the target and we go smart. Must be specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and time related. But the neuro part of a goal is more than that. So you wake up in the morning, your neurology agitates you and says, you just woken up. What do you want to do? Do you first want to go and make tea or coffee, or do you want to go to the bathroom? And then while you're lying there, it continues with the agitation. And so our mind already has a project manager in it. And then it says, so how long are you going to lie here under the duvet with your butt? Get out and do what you want to do first. So you go to the toilet, and the reason why we go to the toilet is not just to do an action. That's a SMART goal. It's a non-conscious goal. The mind, when you go and make the tea, doesn't want to say, yippee, here's the goal. I've got a cup. I've made myself a juice, and so I've achieved my goal. No, no, no. The neurology says you only achieve the goal when you go like this. And that is setting a neurological goal. So in setting a goal with your team, you've got to ask the question, what do we feel when we achieve that target? What do we see when we achieve that target? What do we experience kinesthetically when we achieve that target? If you do not do that, the neurology doesn't give you energy to get there. So you'll generally go there, you'll have general good results, but if you want specific, powerful, context-specific results, you'll do this exercise with your goals. Then, in our strategy, we've got our brand, we've got certain projects that we've done, we've got this black dotted line, which is our culture, or what I call our soul life, and that is people. Culture is people. Culture is not a system. Culture is the interaction of people and their emotions. Then you've got V.U.C.A that's happening in our world. You've got Barney that's happening in our world, and you can Google those two words and discover what they like. But in reality, the whole thing around strategy is 80% is people, and 80% of your business is customers. 20% are people's skills, knowledge, experience, education, wisdom applied to it. So when people resign, 80% of people resign. They do not resign a company. 80% of people resign the way that they've been managed and led. They resign because of an interpersonal relationship that either happened or didn't. Now, in understanding that, we also need to strategize, and what people do not strategize for is the neurology. What is the thinking behind this? What is the feeling behind this? What is the energy that we need behind this? Because this team over here, you don't manage their amount of sales. You manage their energy, their clarity of focus, and their sense of commitment. If you don't manage that, then you're not managing the human mind in action. So we're managing personality and all the other gemors that goes with that. So here's your past reality. The start of 2003 is here. You've got a journey, and here we are. And this is the 20th of November. Here we are, 20th of November, hippie hooray. Here we are. We're here now. You have got facts to your disposal. So there are information, There are facts about amounts, there are facts about amount of sales, people that have left, people that have been onboarded. So there is a story that was unfolding over here. And I want you to take a moment and pause a little bit about this story, and we're going to measure that, because the story tells us we've had some tailwinds. So I went on a flight to Cape Town, and we were 35 minutes earlier because of this little reality here, that there was tailwinds. So the wind came behind the engines and pushed the plane forward over a period of length of time, and we won 30 minutes in our traveling time. But as we stand here, there's something we need to remember. Whatever got you to here is not going to take you there. Whatever got you here is not going to take you there. So we've got to create a brand new hoped-for reality. And if you don't create that brand new hoped-for reality, then you're creating a myth. So with the headwinds of V.U.C.A, volatility, uncertainty, chaos and calamity and ambiguity, Barney, which means brittle, where we have to embrace agility, we're anxious and therefore we have to foster inclusivity. We are Barney is non-linear, so stuff doesn't happen in sequence. So therefore we have to adapt agility in our leadership style, and the incomprehensible happens, and therefore we have to validate stuff by researching, because we're not always sure of what's happening and what's unpacking. So how much of that have you got in your strategy in the future? The other thing is here, we're going to sign off at some stage. That'll be over here. This is where we're going to sign off. And here where we sign off is where our company closes, and we have holidays, depending on the holidays. And my question is, what are you doing in terms of celebrating and reaffirming, and what are you grateful for? It has to be a wonderful, non-generalized experience. Oh, well done, guys. You did well this year. Everybody goes, blah, 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 blah. You generalizing. Tell me exactly what you noticed about me. Goes, you put your shoulder to the wheel to win this account. Man, you had to knock 5 times on that door. Thank you for your persistence for knocking 5 times on that door. Thank you for pushing through on this. Thank you for paying attention to this, and be specific in your affirmation of people. Stop being general, because the brain just wipes that off and says, okay, so that's not a compliment, that's not a compliment, that's not a compliment, because you're working with an intelligent, conscious mind. It knows when it sees it, feels it, and hears it. It knows when you are unauthentic. So with the reality of V.U.C.A and Barney happening onto our lives, we're going to come back with a new mindset. And this is very critical. When you start work, you're going to have another meeting. And that meeting means this is what I've got to awaken in that meeting. And have you strategized for it? How have you awakened awareness? How have you awakened consciousness? So how am I conscious? So we could say, do the zebra thing, that's unconsciousness. Or I can step back and do that and go, okay, I can see the zebra, that's the one that I'm going for lunch. Being conscious in your leadership and management means I'm a witness. When you go to court and you're a witness, the attorney will ask you, tell me, what did you see, what did you feel, what did you hear, and what was your conclusion from your perspective? So you become your own internal witness. You become woke, you become awake in your business. And you have to do that with intentionality, impact, influence, intuition, and innovation, which means how are we going to differentiate yourself? This is what must keep you awake at night. How are we different? And how do we differentiate ourselves with great clarity in our market? So here's new markets, new things are going to happen. Stuff is still going to happen in terms of V.U.C.A and Barney and all of that stuff. But this new beginning is another moment that I've got to use intentionality and use consciousness with my team. And you do a damn good job of that. So now let's go, and I'd like you to pay attention to this rating scale. It's 0, -1, -2, -3, +1, +2, +3. 0 is average. 1, I did what was needed. 2, I did extra. 3, it was exceptional. I blew the water right out of it, blew it out the water. -1, we missed it. -2, we missed it quite a lot. And 3, we totally missed it. It went like right over our head. So I want you to measure, and in these circles over here is where I want you to measure. So let's start here. Do you, and can you say that you have journaled the results of your past? So here's what you're measuring. Have I journaled my past? Have I journaled the past success? In which month? In which term? In which quarter? And what was the story behind that? Was I awake and a witness in the story of what I was doing and looking at in terms of my past? Was I paying attention to that? Yes or no? And you can... Now, as we see that, there you're going to give yourself a score. Go to yourself, me and my brand. How did you do in terms of being a leader with regards to my presence, my intentionality, my voice of authority, my heart of understanding, my mind of brilliance? Measure yourself on that. Did you knock the ball out of the court, or were you average, or you were a little bit more than average, or were you very, very good at it? The my brand is, how did you show up in terms of, this is me? So my brand is my voice, my presence, my expertise, all at hand. Then here is a circle called the comfort zone, and here's your team members. So there's your team members there. And what I'd like you to look at and measure your team members. So here is the arrow that goes, that was our trajectory. Did your team totally go in the same trajectory? Or then you can also measure your own, each team member. You're going, okay, that team at time oscillated from there to there. So there was an oscillation. This person went spiral. So that person was spiraling, and then we'll find it. This person went backwards and sometimes went that way and then went that way. So look at each team member and draw a line in terms of, and this tells you about how aware your teams are. Take time to look at each team member and go, did this person follow me? Did they follow instructions, or were they creating vortexes that were going all over the place? And that will tell you what are the conversations I need to have with all of them. So don't worry about putting a plus or a, but overall with your team, can you say that they are, was that they an average team, which is 0, or were they a +1, or were they a -1 or a -2 on average? But measure each team members, were they with me on the journey? Did we march together as a team? In lane, saam met mekaar. The team that was what they're good at. So there's some foundational stuff that they're doing. Did they do that right? Then there's every person, and the question is, every person here on the team, they are good at something. Did they do what they were good at? Yes or no? Because the team is 80% of your success. Then those that were best at, so there are team members that are like brilliant at certain things, were they best at what they were best at? And then how many of your team members moved into this world over here, which is the world of their potential? And they moved in and did something new, became someone different, became someone new, better than the best. And you mark that, and you can get your team to do that in exercise as well. Over here, is the Hebrew word ruach, and in the book of Genesis, the earth was already created. It was covered with the sea, and the story goes, and there was breath that was blown over the sea, and that breath was called ruach, the Hebrew word ruach, and the sea and the land separated. What separates in your company is the difference between information and intelligence. How good were you in your company in terms of 50% of our customers ride red bicycles? Great. What does that tell us in terms of intelligence? Now that we know that, so what? 50% play golf. I'm glad people are looking at Murensuk all the time, and it's like, where they headed? When I play golf, I'm a Roman Catholic. I play that way, that way, that way, that way, all over. And then my caddy comes in and says, let him play. And then I play a magnificent game as he helps me. But what have you separated in your systems? What have you learned in terms of this journey of the past? What's separated? What's a mountain and what's ocean? Have you done that separation? Do you know what's the difference between one and the other? Have you looked at the interconnectedness of your business, the interconnected of people's minds, of people's energy, of people's focus, and then ask yourself the question, now, what did we learn about interconnection, and your system that you're using, is it working or is it holding you back? So in a company that I am coaching right now, no names, no pectoral, the one thing that most people are hassled with, and it's impacting, this is how powerful this is, it's impacting the economy absolutely negatively. And that's called, they are now procurement. It's the biggest problem because there's one or two little rules that somebody in a room as a clerk is applying, and they're stuffing up the whole system. People can't buy product, they can't buy spares, they can't buy this. And you need to ask the question, where's the holdup in the system? And then get rid of that. Because whatever holds you up in the system impacts in terms of the new you that you're going to be there. Have you defined who you are in the future? Who's the new you? What new skills? What new knowledge? What new wisdom are you going to have? And here, what's the new team look like? Your leadership in terms of management is, how well did you do in terms of conquering to overcome poor productivity? How good were you with that? How did you, with courageous, conquer poor productivity? How did you increase ownership in your team and in your clients? How did your team perform? How much was clarity with clarity? And I want you to take the word why and put a cross next to it. I know Simon Sinek wrote a whole book on it, but that doesn't mean you must believe it. The subconsciousness does not know what to do with the question why. And I've got a whole challenge on that on video that explains why the brain finds difficulty with why. How effective were you in your coaching? It's now become a reality that in business, if you no longer, you must shift from leadership and management to coaching people. Your sales team needs to be coached, your marketing needs to be coached, and we've got a neuro team coach course that your team can go on in next year. How good with you with your financial formulas? How good with you with your customer connection? And how good were you in terms of operation and effectiveness? Now, you're going to be getting all of these slides. This slide, you'll work on your own. And this slide, you'll also work on your own, where you can measure that and measure yourself so it doesn't go all haywire. But here's my offer to you. I want to help you. And by helping you, I want to say to you that the first 15 people who tell me that they are willing to invest 1,897 Rand 97 cents, which is 47% discount, for 1.5 hours, I will walk you through your strategy of how well you've thought and how well you haven't thought. And we can do that at the end of the year, or we can do that in the beginning of the new year. But if you send me your information at bill.price@me.com, and I will send you an invoice, you can then pay, and we will set a one-on-one time with you where you can, at your leisure, work through some of these criteria, which is called calibration. And I'm going to be using the neuroscience tools that I've been sharing with you on this particular coaching session right now. Don't want you to go and feel overwhelmed. I just want you to be able to look and go, that's called thoroughness. Thoroughness means I pay attention to detail, I pay attention to process, I pay attention to momentum, I pay attention as a witness to my business of all the things that are within my sight, hindsight, foresight, and the present sight in which I'm looking. And I want to offer you the help to come alongside you and to offer you this ridiculous benefit and investment, which you'll never get again. And the first 15 that reply by the 25th of November will get that price. After the 25th, the price changes. And I am wanting to help those who want to go forward differently, differentiate themselves more understandably, and to become totally super conscious of what's happening in their world and in their business. There's nothing more powerful than understanding this fact. Malpractice is when people prescribe before they diagnose. And what you need to do is to diagnose thoroughly, not half-heartedly. So I want to be along there with you to help you to diagnose thoroughly. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to receiving your email, looking forward to setting up a meeting with you and helping you to take your creation of a new reality to a brilliant reality that unfolds. Thank you.